Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which I find out that, I guess, in order to be attractive, you have to be a certain way. If only I knew what way that was. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Totally overheated Thursday. Holy cats, it's an inferno out there. Wherever you are, it probably is. If it's not, count yourself lucky. Some of us are melting. I was not made for this weather, but this weather I am in. So, how was your day? Mine was, aside from being overheated, slightly boring, but then tomorrow is a month end, so it'll be even busier. And then I had a little bit of an emotional spike this afternoon in a previous stream, which you can find on my channel if you'd like to take a look, but that's all behind us now. Now we're going to take a look at something that is very pressing, I guess. We'll find out. But before I get there, who's joining me on this beautiful Thursday evening for another TED Excellence? Matt Barnes, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. Mike, Chicago Mike, hello. Jonathan Peterson, hello. If I can slow down a bit. JMK, hello. Keever Dam, hello. Bridget, hello. Deco, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Zeke Weiss, hello. Spittlebuggies, hello. Fulkinkut, hello. Fulkinkut. Ostsan, hello. Angela Ariaga, Roger Reynolds, No Name, hello. Who else is here? I miss anybody? Spoonie the Rebel, hello. Shell D, hello. And then the chat jumped, because of course it did. Somnamnul Nation, hello. Danosaurus Rec, hello. And Smudge, hello. Zero the Hero 909, hello. Roger Reynolds, hello. 1456 Doc Builder, hello. Chain 872. Chain 872005, hello. 87200. Okay, 87 2005. Does that mean something, or is this one of those like random numbers they assign you, like Boogie 2988 or whatever? What do I know? Otho May, hello. And I think that's everybody that I see. And nobody you know. I like that one. Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. If I missed you, or if you're lurking, well, I will try to spot you when you are spottable. But yeah, so what's tonight? Well, after last week, the glory of last week, where I was legitimately trying to find a TEDx that would teach me something on a subject I was interested in, it was a rousing failure. And so I thought this week I'd go back to the old hat of, is there a title that boggles my mind? And surely this one does. Sex and the Sin of Non-Whiteness, Better Consent Models for WOC. Now, I am assuming, it's probably a safe assumption, but I'm assuming that WOC means women of color. Sex and the Sin of Non-Whiteness. So that makes me think of like colorism to a certain extent, or the trend I am told exists of white women being more attractive inherently than non-white women. But the consent models, I don't know what that means in relation. That's sort of the bewildering part when I read the title. I was like, what does one have to do with the other? But we're talking about sex and attractiveness, I guess. Consent models. All right, we got statistics. I don't know. We'll find out together because, well, you're here and I can't leave until I'm done with this. It's kind of like Mystery Science Theater 3000. I'm being controlled by some scientists on another planet, mainly Earth. Maybe that's a gimmick I should go with. It's like I'm only watching these things because I'm being forced to by some nefarious supervillains on Earth. Thank you, Keeverdam. GoFundMes are in the chat. Oh, yes. Pardon me. My apologies. Thank you, Keeverdam. Please, if you would, direct your attention to the top of the chat box when you have a chance. There are GoFundMes there for our friend Shady Grin, Angry Illinoisian, and his kitten. If you have a couple of bucks to spare, their friends, and their family would certainly appreciate your help. So there you go. I'm getting ahead of myself this evening. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to find out whatever the heck this person has to talk about. I have been warned by Keeverdam that there is a brief mention of rape at the beginning of the talk. Me just saying that word, I think, makes the algorithm completely demonetize this video. But then I don't monetize these videos because I always figure TEDx is going to monetize them anyway, or like copyright claim them, so I don't bother. So there's no ads on this anyway, so I'm not really that concerned. But just in case you wanted to know, I'm relatively prepared. Otherwise, I don't know what she's going to say. So there you go. Anyway, let's get into it. This clocks in at 13 minutes and 28 seconds, so kind of your average TEDx talk. I will start off with a few seconds for a sound test. The opening is silent because it started out with some kind of music track that I'm not sure if it is itself copyrighted, so all you're going to see is some visuals for a beat or three with no sound, and then we'll get into it. Just that editorial warning. So I guess really the sound test doesn't come until... Anyway, let's just get into it. If you hear something, just let me know. Liminal, between the lines. Duke of Earl.
When I was in middle school, when I was young.
When you were young? Isn't there a song, When We Were Young? You don't look that old right now, but it's still a long-distance shot. You guys hear that okay? Let me know in the chat. Let's see. Who else is here? Lexi Mads is here. Well, I guess I can begin. Jeanette E. Hellis is here. Hello, Jeanette. And anybody else that I missed? I don't see anybody. And then chat jumps, so I'll just have to take it on faith. I hear something, says Zeke Weiss. That doesn't really help me. Sounds nifty, says some Namgil Nation. Kiever Dam anecdote. The Kiever Dam is just trigger on the finger. Oh, yeah, by the way, trigger on the finger? Yeah, that too. Bingo card tonight is bingo card C. And yes, Kiever Dam is correct. Even before we've gotten maybe a second into the talk, we already have an anecdote on our way here. So let's might as well just circle that as we will. So circling anecdote that, well, hold on. I don't know if it's an anecdote that never happened. We got to listen to it first. See, I'm not that quick. Okay, so anyway, let me back up just a second here.
Middle school.
Middle school.
When I was young.
Yes.
Old enough to like a boy, but young enough to have no clue what that meant.
Oh, her entire script is on the screen. That's different.
There was a boy who I thought was my boyfriend and who said he was my boyfriend, but also completely ignored me in school. Mm-hmm. It's a sad, silly story. Lots of girls know. It was fine because
it was elementary school and kids are weird.
Because when we were together, he made me feel like he could fill my gaping void.
Okay, that's one way to put it.
He was terrible. But he was also charming and persuasive. I was nerdy and friendless, all lanky limbs and crazy hair. And he was beautiful and popular. I accepted the state of affairs between us.
Yeah, well, okay, middle school, yeah, okay, so, or junior high, as is called elsewhere. Yeah, okay, so you were a know-nothing teenager. Yep. Wait. There was a quote, there was an attribution at the end of that. Wait, what? Now, hold on. What? No. Hold on.
Affairs between us.
No, dang it, I want to, why can't I freeze frame on that? Roxanne Gay, bad feminist. Okay, so this isn't even your quote. Okay, sorry guys, I just wanted to make sure I knew where this was coming from, because she didn't say. Okay, so this is someone else's story, all right.
We would hang out in his older brother's bedroom.
Wait, you're reading someone else's story. You're not talking about yourself. Okay.
Through worn copies of Hustler and Playboy magazine. And I would examine these naked women, mostly young, white, blonde, thin, taut. Their bodies seemed alien to me, unreal. I knew it was wrong to look at these women displaying such wanton nakedness, but I couldn't look away. He clearly found them exciting.
So wait, this is a dramatic reading of other people's stories? I am honestly dumbfounded right now as to what I'm supposed to be listening to, or what it... What?
sexually attractive, and I knew even then that I was nothing like them.
Uh-huh.
I didn't really want to be like them, but I wanted him to want me. And I wanted him to look at me the way he looked at those magazines.
Mm-hmm.
He never did.
Uh-huh.
And in his way, he punished me for what I wasn't and could never be.
That's called a self-esteem issue. That's a you problem. Also, I just have to say that if the camera had not been zoomed out at the point where it showed the attribution of that text, I would have no idea that our speaker wasn't telling a story of her own life. So, okay.
He punished me for being too young and too naive, too adoring, and too accommodating. I was a thing to him.
Are these things he told you, or are these things that were in your mind? Oh, wait, no, it's not your mind. You're reading somebody else's story, so you have no idea what actually is going on. It's just relaying other people's... Okay.
Long before he and his friends raped me.
Okay. And this isn't your story. You're reading someone else's story, right?
He was fine. He was terrible. And I was a thing to him long before he and his friends raped me, and I didn't know how to say no.
Okay, this is Roxanne Gay's story. This isn't your story. I just want to keep reiterating that because this is so bizarre.
It never crossed my mind to say no. This was the price I had to pay to be loved by him, or if I was being honest with myself, to be tolerated by him.
Uh-huh.
For a girl like me, shy and unworthy and sheltered and absolutely desperate for his attention, I didn't dare hope for anything more. I knew that.
I don't know what to say. It's like, a terrible thing happened. Not you. The person whose story you are currently relaying had a terrible thing happen to them while they were a teenager and internalized everything, as teenagers often do. I don't have anything to add to that. As far as anecdote that probably never happened, I'm hesitant to circle because A, it's not our speaker's anecdote, and I have no way of knowing from the way that she's telling it or otherwise. Yeah, she's reading someone else's story. Let's go over the bingo card real quick just to keep our ears open for particular things. Plays victim. Well, she's not talking about herself yet, so I don't know. That doesn't count. Leaves out vital context. If she doesn't attribute this story to its originator somewhere in her speech here, I'm going to circle that because, like I say, anybody listening to this so far would have no idea that this isn't the speaker's story. Weightless example. Don't know where the argument is yet. Anecdote that probably never happened. Again, can't weigh that one. Benevolent condescension. Maybe. Self-vilification or wretchedness. I'd be surprised. And again, I'm going to keep focusing on the speaker and not the stories she's telling. Feminism, possibly. Childhood or family anecdote, not yet. Privilege, not yet. Sales pitch for product or service, not yet. Microaggressions, unconscious bias, no. Patriarchy, perhaps. Wage gap, no. Mind reading assumes motives, don't know yet. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, no. Word salad, no. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, no. Marginalized, marginalization, no. Contradicts own point or argument, don't know what it is yet. Systemic, institutional, not yet. A list, nope. White supremacy, well, given the title, maybe. Argumentative non sequitur, if she doesn't give some kind of reason for why she's bringing this story up, possibly so. And collectivize his own demographic, well, the women of color part in the title might contribute to that, but we haven't gotten there yet. So nothing circled on the board yet because we still haven't gotten to the actual talk. Okay.
In her books, Hunger and Bad Feminist, Roxanne Gay discusses a brutal assault at age 12 she endured at the hands of a boy and his friends.
Okay, so you are attributing that to someone who... Okay, good. All right, now give her credit on that one.
She also discusses the weeks before the assault, wherein her complicated sexual relationship with the boy was, in her words, the price she had to pay to be tolerated by him.
A misconception on her part, being young and inexperienced.
The ways we talk about consent in this country have grown wildly in quality over recent years. We know more now than we used to. We know about power dynamics and coercion. I'm the president of Planned Parenthood here at Duke, and we use the Fry's model of consent. We say consent has to be freely given, reversible, enthusiastic, and specific.
Oh, boy. Okay. Yes, the concept of consent has only recently been brought to the fore. It's never been discussed previously or elsewise. The Fry model of consent. Enthusiastic. You see, I've seen those videos from a couple of years ago where there were like sort of dramatic demonstrations of healthy consent. And it was so mechanical and robotic. It's hard to describe. It's like, is it okay if I take off this shirt? If it's okay, I unbutton that button. How about this button? What about that button? I mean, it was very. I almost thought it was satire. The couple that I saw, but no, they were being serious. This is how they imagined actual consent would work, with people just like making out as a couple. It was so alien and cold, really. So I don't know. There are non-verbal cues in all sorts of situations, whether it's romantic or otherwise. But okay, maybe she'll model them for us in some way.
Today, I want to talk about the people, and the women especially, who are consenting to things freely, enthusiastically, informed, specifically, to things that are happening just after sex.
Okay.
I want to talk about the space between sex and the way sex can make you feel, and the problems that arise from girls consenting to one to get the other.
What?
I want to prove to you that girls of color in America are taught to crave being sexually desired and warned that they do not deserve it.
Okay. Well, it is quite literally impossible for me to say one way or the other as to whether that statement has any validity to it. Because I'm not female, and I'm white. And I don't know what the country is telling. Okay, those of you in the audience that may fall within these demographics that she's whittling down for us, if you would, sort of as a running commentary, and I'll keep my eyes on the chat. Anything that she says here have any like validity to it, any weight to it? Because I don't know. I'll be honestly ignorant here.
I want to explain that our current consent models cannot always handle a woman of color's yes, when her yes is to the sexual and emotional validation she's been taught to want, and not at all to the physical contact that comes along with it.
So if a woman of color says yes to sex, the correct response the other person should have is, I would be hurting her to proceed? I'm going to circle mind reading assumes motives, because whichever direction you come at that scenario, you're doing one or the other. And I realize that's part of the topic and not necessarily, well, anyway. Yeah, so mind reading assumes motives, circling that on the board. I'm mightily confused right now. Go to the chat for a second here to see if anybody has anything they'd like to add to this. Let's see. Ebony Williams, my mother taught me about consent, more or less. Yeah, that was my kind of thing. Jeanette E. Hellis, my personal experience, no. Lexi Mad says, I feel like it's going to trigger me. I'll stick it out as long as I can, but if I peace, it's not a reflection on anyone else. I love you all. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, this is such a bizarre thing. Okay, so if a woman of color says yes to physical intimacy, I, as the other person, have to assume that she's not technically doing it of her own free will or desire. And I need to assume that because she's both female and not white. Is that the message I'm supposed to be taking from this?
And most of all, I want any young person watching at the end of this to be able to ask themselves, what do I really want out of sexual activity? And what am I offering up to get it?
My witty charm and physical prowess. That's what I'm offering up to get it. You know, I guess. I don't know. Or wait, are you talking about just girls? Only girls can have this conversation. The men don't. We're just like this faceless, emotionless brick wall in the equation or something.
But first, I have to prove things to you. Prove that I'm not just some alarmist snowflake Gen Zer.
Well, I will credit you this. You are going to have to. It is going to be an uphill battle for you to convince me at this point, after the statement you've already made, that you're not a reactionary concern troll with consent models and assumptions of people's quality of thinking or self-esteem based on genitals and or skin color. Yeah, you're gonna have to work pretty hard on that one.
And there really are swaths of young people, especially young people of color, who are having sex to gain the emotional and social validation they are being withheld, and not for physical pleasure.
Yeah, here's the thing. That's been going on since the beginning of time. Do you think all guys just do it because they want to? You don't think guys have pressure on them from their own peer groups to just get laid, whether they actually want to or not, whether they're ready to or not? You think that only happens amongst girls? This isn't a human experience that has happened throughout the history of civilization. You have discovered nothing new. You are telling us nothing new. And, in fact, I think that kind of qualifies as benevolent condescension. So I'm going to circle that one real quick, too.
So proof one. Okay. Women are socialized to need male attention to feel whole.
Men are socialized to need female attention to feel whole. Oh, wait. Humans are socialized to need human attention to feel whole. Am I simplifying things too much for you there? Men don't count as humans. They don't have the same kind of needs, wants, and desires. Maslow's triangle, etc., or hierarchy of needs. These things. Yeah, okay, all right, if you say so.
As noted TED speaker Cheryl Strayed once wrote in the New York Times, we live in a culture that grants women and girls power and validation based first and foremost on their sexual appeal to men.
Okay, I'm going to circle patriarchy, and I don't think I'm too off the mark in as well circling then feminism. By implication alone, we have a gender battle going on here, so let me circle those two.
Upon first breath, girls are socialized to be lots of things, plenty of them good, funny, generous, clever, but no trait is as emphasized or as valued as the ability to be sexually desired by men.
Do you know anything about men? Can you imagine for a moment the desires of a man might be similar to those of women when it comes to human contact and intimacy, connection, and belonging? Can you imagine for a moment that these are human endeavors, human problems, not just female problems or male problems? Do you have any kind of empathy for the other side of the gender equation on this?
In a 2006 study out of USC Annenberg of the 100 top-grossing G-rated films of the 90s and 2000s, fewer than 1 out of every 3 speaking characters was a female.
Okay. Is this argumentative non sequitur or a weightless example? Speaking roles for females in movies. Did you say G-rated films? Out of 100? Okay, for those of you listening at home, there is a card on the screen now that shows a bar graph. Out of 100 films, which 100 films? How did you pick these 100 films? Oh, it's UC Annenberg. You don't even give it an attribution, but okay. Prevalence of female speaking characters on screen. 2007, 29.9. Out of 100 films. Wait, how do you get 29.9 films? Either... Wait, 1/10 of a film didn't have a film... What? 32 point... what is this supposed to mean? Why is 2013 highlighted red?
From 2007 to 2013, there was not a single year where girls or women made up more than 33% of the speaking characters in movies.
Out of 100 specific films... In movies, no, in 100 movies, in 100 select movies, the metrics by which we don't know and you're not telling us. What are you talking about? What?
When girls see themselves on screen, it's in characters very clearly valued for their visual contributions, meant to be seen and not heard.
Oh, yeah, because men are never eye candy for anybody. Men are never required in Hollywood to basically kill themselves to get themselves into Greek god bodies long enough to be snapped onto film for the enjoyment of women and for the, I don't know, idolization of men. Yeah, no, that never happens. There are no men who have low to no speaking roles in movies who have to look good. Okay, well, flip the script. How many men appeared on screen that had no speaking roles? Huh? Just female speaking characters. Okay.
And as those girls get older, they do start to see more of themselves on screen. And by more of themselves, I mean their naked bodies.
Oh, for
In an
crying out
analysis
loud.
of 1,100 movies, more than 25% of female characters show some amount of nudity, where fewer than 10% of male characters do. And worst of all, in those movies, girls aged 13 to 21 are just as likely to be nude as women aged 21 to 39.
13 to 21. 13. Okay, I don't know what movies your study was looking at for those statistics, but might want to call the cops. But that aside, you know what those women did in those movies? They signed contracts, they agreed to the conditions, and they got paid for their work. I don't know what to tell you. There's a market because women are attractive to people, both men and women. But okay, are the movies informing women of color how to value themselves? Are we going to draw a line from movie representation to what you were talking about earlier? How many of these movies had men with their shirts off? I mean, some nudity. I mean, I guess it depends on what you define as nudity. You're talking about like displaying of genitalia or what? Because I see movies all the time with guys who have their shirts off. Or more, depending. But then I don't know what the parameters of this study were. I don't know what movies they picked or why they picked them. Okay.
In the movies, before girls hit puberty, they're silent, and after they hit puberty, they're naked.
Really? That's it? Okay, if you say so.
Media does not just represent reality. Often it constructs it, not just what's cool, but also what's socially acceptable. Media elevates the current truth of what society values right now, and the women on screen in TV and film cumulatively explain to individual little girls what they ideally should be. And in their case, the answer is silent, naked, and more often than not, there to serve a man. Proof 2.
Oh, that was proof. Okay, so all of those women who appeared in all of those movies, all those actresses, they are the victimizers. I'm not quite sure what to say to this when I'm obviously listening to a zealot. Yeah, okay, so yeah, the media services what sells. I hate to tell you this. Since I don't know how these movies were chosen or by what parameters, your first example was 100 films in any particular year. How many films are made? 100 films. Okay, I gotta go to the bingo card. I'm just like, okay. Plays victim in a cumulative sense, yeah. You don't have to watch the movies. No one is forcing you to be naked. No one's forcing you to be silent, if you can believe it. So, unless you have a story of your own you'd like to share. But okay. Leaves out vital context. Yeah, the parameters of the study, like what movies were chosen. Were they chosen based on box office? Were they chosen based on, I don't know. I'm assuming box office, because the last couple of times I've seen studies done where they start using movies, they say something to the effect of the top 100 or top 50 highest earning movies of last year had XYZ, elements in it or something. As though that represents all movies or something. Weightless example. Movie representation, your proof wasn't proof of anything so far, but I'm going to wait because maybe in context it'll mean something. Anecdote that probably never happened. Yeah, okay. Now, does that constitute a list? 2 graphs. Yeah, I'm going to say that constitutes a list. Let's see. Okay, so far I have circled on the board: plays victim, leaves out vital context, benevolent condescension, feminism, patriarchy, mind reading assumes motives, and a list. There'll probably be more as we go, but let's keep going.
Gender and marginalized identity meet at an intersection.
Oh, marginalized. All right, marginalization. That is on the board. Quoted from the speaker.
To result in even more hypersexualization and a social resistance to healthy sexual attachment.
Like?
Women of color are even less represented than white women, and when they are represented, they are even more hypersexualized.
In movies? Are we still talking about movies?
In an analysis of 252 magazine covers, only 52 of them displayed women of color. Of the 90% of them that did feature a woman of color, had hypersexual context clues, content, and images.
And the women pictured in those magazine covers had no choice in the matter? They weren't displaying their freedom and their power and their sexuality as something they were proud of? Or do you think they were forced into it? And you notice how more white women are being sexualized in your own example? Do you see that? I mean, if we're going to talk about dividing the races, well, white women are far more objectified just in volume than women of color. So aren't they a higher percentage of being victims then in messaging? Or am I missing the point? I must be missing the point.
And 90% of the women of color who were featured on those magazines had their ethnic features masked in some way by whiteness, be that be hair straightening or skin lightening.
And none of the actresses or models or anybody, that wasn't their choice. They didn't have final say on what photos to use by their management or elsewise. I don't know. Do you know? If you don't know, why do you make it sound like they're victims?
Remember how earlier I said that the women on screen in TV and film cumulatively explain to individual little girls what they ideally should be?
Yeah, I remember you said that. I don't necessarily believe it. Because, you see, I don't know your personal situation, but the role models I had growing up were the people in my family, people that I actually knew. Because I had this, it's a very rare skill. I know. I realize that not everybody possesses this, but I had this weird ability to be able to separate reality from production. I know. It's very. I can't even imagine what it's like for somebody growing up today in our social media world trying to do that. So maybe it is a dying art, but I had the ability to separate what was actually happening around me, real people in the world around me, from highly produced media. But again, maybe I'm just a rare duck. I don't know. Thank you, Jeanette E. Hellis, and the fact that she finds that as a problem speaks volumes. I can't. This is one of those things where I'm kind of on the fence. Am I watching someone who is a true believer, or am I watching someone who is playing out their own neuroses on a stage, or both? Because what she's offering up as proof is just glorified opinion and accusation and vilification. Is there an unhealthy amount of nudity and sex and objectification in media today? Well, just on the basis of access alone, it depends. But here's the thing. This is where, and I know I'm going to sound like an old fuddy-duddy saying this is where responsible parenting comes in. Keeping an eye on what your children consume as far as media and what outlets they have in order to consume it. You want healthy role models? Take part in your kids' lives. Keep an eye on what they're up to. You know, I know it's a weird concept, but... Yeah.
That's true in a broad sense.
Broad sense? Oh, well now, who's leaning onto gender stereotypes and slurs? Sorry, I'll just back up a little bit.
TV and film cumulatively explain to individual little girls what they ideally should be. That's true in a broad sense.
True in a broad sense. Okay, is it or is it not? True, you've just diluted your own proof with that one statement. True in a broad sense. Good. I'm circling word salad. I am circling word salad because if not right now, then in a cumulative sense, yeah, we're just about there. And you know what? Strangely enough, we're only about halfway through this thing, but just now.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
All right, down the I column, straight down, leaves out vital context, feminism, patriarchy, word salad, and a list. That's our first bingo. Let's see where we go.
The understanding that there are lots of characters present in a generic TV show, and girls gradually and broadly pick up on what traits are being valued and what traits are being hated on. Magazines are more specific. There are no ugly Bettys, no plain Janes.
Have you seen the body positivity movement in the last, I don't know, nearly 10 years? I'll say 8 years, thereabouts, that range of time. Have you seen the effort put forth, for better or worse? I'm not going to start getting into a big soliloquy on that, but for better or worse, the effort on media companies, organizations, advertisers, and so on to vastly diversify what they are classifying as healthy and or beautiful. Maybe you haven't noticed this. Maybe you're looking at the wrong magazines, but times they are a-changin'. I don't know if you've noticed.
No duffs on the cover of Vogue, whereas
Duff?
they might exist in other media as a foil. Nobody gets on a magazine cover to show you what not to be.
You sure about that? Yeah, there's never been anybody controversial or elsewise on a magazine cover, I guess.
Magazines are a reveal of the true ideal, the current elite. And if you want to be part of that elite, as a woman of color, you better be hypersexual and you better be as white as possible.
If you say so. Why aren't you wearing any pants? Why are you showing off so much leg? I mean, I'm inured enough over the course of an entire lifetime of porn and everything else, but I mean, a Mennonite might be very, very, scandalized right now. I don't know.
The social order has gotten better at representing different forms of people in media, but not all representation is inherently of valuing. And in that way, girls of color know there's still only one path to value: sexual availability and a proximity to whiteness.
Again, that sounds more like a self-esteem problem and not a reality problem. If you believe that media has the truth of it, where are your parents? Where are your teachers? Well, I know where the teachers are these days. Thank you, Kiefer Dam. A duff is a designated ugly fat friend. Oh, see, I'm just an old fuddy-duddy. I did not know what that meant. I was thinking of like Karen Duffy, or Hillary Duff, right? What's a Duff? Remember Karen Duffy? Anybody remember Karen Duffy from like MTV VJ? She was in the movie Blank Check, right? Amongst other things. Anybody? Okay. She was cute. Anyway, okay.
If you want to be on TV with your skin and your hair, you have to pay a price.
Okay, I'm going to circle self-vilification or wretchedness. She is inherently flawed, I guess. This all sounds like a big, primarily self-esteem issue thing. And it's difficult for me to tell where the speaker's sort of self-declarations begin and the rhetoric ends, so to speak. But I can't imagine that she has not, in the course of this presentation so far, not diminished herself in some way, even if she's not classifying it as such.
Let's harken back to the words of the incomparable Roxane Gay, paraphrased, saying yes was the price she had to pay to be tolerated by a white boy. To that I say that sexual availability is the penance girls of color pay for the sin of non-whiteness.
Sexual availability is what... Okay, so if a girl happens to not be white and they are, I don't know, sexually curious, then they are, deferring to white power in being sexually curious at all. So the healthy route for any girl of color is to avoid sex. Because anything else is what? Just capitulation to white supremacy? Or a diminution of self by exploring your sexuality? Is that your advice?
If you want to be elite, you have to pay a price.
If you want to be elite, you have to pay a price. So the only way to become elite is to sexualize yourself. Now, don't be wrong. The way that TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, etc., the way that social media is promoting itself these days, she might have a point in what people are convinced you have to do to become popular, relevant, etc. I don't particularly like that, but she hasn't been talking about social media. She's been talking about movies and magazines. Why aren't you talking about Instagram and TikTok? OnlyFans or elsewise? Why aren't you talking about any of that stuff? You might have an argument there, potentially. Magazine covers? Old media? Really? Okay.
Which is kind of awkward because, there aren't that many magazine covers for girls of colors to get on.
There aren't that many magazine covers for girls of color to get on. Why would you want them on there? You just told us that them appearing on there requires paying a price, and paying a price means sexualizing yourself and giving yourself over to the white majority, which is obviously just a form of internalized slavery. Are you complaining about there not being enough magazine covers now? Where are we? I'm getting close. I'm getting close to hitting that button.
Which is why sex with any boy seems like the necessary path to prove that you are living up to the ideal facets of girlhood. Desirability is the tree falling in the forest. Someone around you has to admit that they heard it. It's not enough to be sexy. A man has to agree that you are sexy. And it's not even really about sexy. A man has to agree that you are worth something, but ideally worth something should look like being a girlfriend or, something silly, like a dignified human being worthy of respect, but all too often takes the form of paying sex for toleration and the half-baked glow of a boy's attention.
You must be just an absolute rainbow at parties. Okay, so again, any exploration of one's sexuality as a girl of color is actually an act of self-harm. Your message to girls of color is that if they feel the urge or curiosity to explore their sexuality in any way, shape, or form, most especially if it happens to be with someone who's white, then that is actually an act of self-oppression. Am I getting this right? Yeah, this is sounding more and more like a self-therapy session than anything else. So what message, I know I'm asking rhetorically, what message from you, as an example on a stage in front of an audience, half-dressed, do you want young girls to take away? If you're going to basically call any woman who willfully exposes their skin in a dress, in a movie, on a magazine cover as somehow being inherently harmful to themselves and anybody looking at them, well, then I have to then ask the question, what were you thinking not wearing pants? Thank you, Poker Pierce. Ayo, looks like I missed a very interesting one. Well, we still got a few minutes left, and you can always rewind. Be kind, rewind.
Which leads us to a complicated spot.
Yeah, no, the complicated spot is basically this entire presentation so far. And where are we going with it? What are you asking for? What do you want to see changed? Like no more magazine covers? No more women allowed to show anything of their bodies? Are we going to take back into a completely Puritan avenue on this? Are you preaching for abstinence amongst women of color because they are women of color?
Because girls and women have a complete and sacred control over their bodies, and it's not up to me or anyone to tell them what kind of sex they should be having.
You tell me that, okay, you got 3 seconds here to tell me that was some kind of like satirical remark.
But real problems do arise from sex of misplaced desire.
Okay, no. It's not for me to tell anybody what to do. I'm just going to tell you all that sex is inherently self-harming and servicing of white people. And if you do it, you're actually giving in to the power of the media, and you have no control of yourself, you have no agency, you are just a tool, and you're being whatever.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, I gave a lot of time there. I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait. No. And speaking of which, in addition to the WTF, I'm gonna circle contradicts own point or argument, because she just spent, what is it, the last 11 minutes of a 13-minute talk basically telling us that all girls of color who happen to give in to their sexual desires or even just have sex are doing themselves and their entire demographic a disservice. But I'm not here to tell you not to. Give me a break. Nope. Well, somebody was zooming their engine out there. You guys hear that? Anyway. Circling contradicts own point or argument. Let's see. He's also circling collectivize his own demographic. A little late to the game on that one, but there you go. Yeah, and we'll, of course, do a final review once the talk is over, which is only in a couple of minutes as far as the video's time is concerned. Yeah, I'm not here to tell anybody how to have sex, but
real problems do arise from sex of misplaced desire. I don't have any useful rules for you.
Misplaced desire. Okay, now, don't get me wrong. There is some truth to teaching your children when the time comes about, as best as you can, because kids are always going to make mistakes and do stupid things and make stupid decisions. But as best as you can, try to teach your kids that you're never required to do anything with anybody you don't want to. There's more to you than just simply what you can do with your body, etc. These are healthy lessons that parents can pass on to their kids, and I hope that they do. Okay? But you shouldn't be so scared of getting intimate with somebody because some lady on a stage tells you that you're actually being injurious to an entire demographic of people or something, or that your whole life is going to be. I have to imagine, and I don't know, I'm not a mind reader, but just context clues, body language, etc. I have to imagine that our speaker has had some exceedingly negative experiences in her own life that cannot help but influence her opinions here on this stage. And in that regard, she has my condolences, as much as that matters to anything. Because there's nothing to joke about there. If you've been taken advantage of, if you made a mistake, if something terrible happened in the course of being intimate with somebody, depends on the circumstances. Could be funny, could be tragic, don't know. But your experience does not mean you have to poison the well for everybody else. There's common sense things you can teach to children and pass on to them as they grow up. Not just about consent as it relates to intimacy, but as consent just relates to human interaction, that as well qualifies for intimacy. But all you're doing is vilifying sex, and specifically vilifying sex as relates to girls of color. Like, if my skin color is the wrong shade, I need to be scared about my own sexual desires? And second, triple guess myself every time I decide to kiss somebody? I don't know. Doesn't sound like a healthy way to live to me, but maybe that's just me.
There's no one-size-fits-all way to tell when a 17-year-old wants physical pleasure versus the glow of a boy's attention. I just want more teen girls to be aware of this.
Aware of what? What are you talking about?
Because I promise you, enough teen boys are.
Okay, so you're a misandrist as well, because obviously all boys are the villain and all girls are the victims, both of boys and of themselves, their own desires they're being victimized by. Or their maybe desires, or their desires that you're pretty sure aren't actually valid because they're probably fueled by wanting to be liked and not because they actually possess those desires, and which of course would never happen with a boy.
Think of all the way teen boys try to get a girl in bed. I love you. You're so beautiful. I've never met anybody so special.
Yes, I have never heard such things come out of a girl's mouth to a boy before. These are not exclusively girl experiences. But then you're not a boy, so how would you know? I guess you'd have to actually talk to some men first, wouldn't you?
Teen girls know when they're being tricked into sex.
They do? Really? Okay. So all your previous examples of girls just kind of doing it for the attention, they know they're doing it for the wrong reason, but they're doing it anyway. I thought that they had fooled themselves or something.
The question is how to know when they are tricking themselves. To any teen girl watching this, ask yourself, what do you like about rolling around with that boy?
Okay, like I said, there is some validity to teaching kids, boys and girls, about trying to be wise and use some common sense when having interactions like that. There's nothing wrong with that. And yes, you shouldn't just do it to do it, for peer pressure or otherwise, ideally. But if a kid decides to do it, if some teenager's like, I want to just get it over with and find out what it's like because I'm curious, well, then that's what happens. I don't know what to tell you. I didn't have sex until I was like 22. Not because, I didn't want to, but because, just the instances where it happened, which weren't that often, admittedly, because I was a, shy nerd most of my life, didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable with it. I had a handful of opportunities, and I just didn't feel like I was ready for whatever reason. I was either scared about pregnancy, perhaps, or, a dozen other things in my head. And so I didn't do it. And I don't regret not doing it because I knew at the time it wasn't right. So, but if someone decides elsewise, if I'd been, 18 and decided otherwise, well, you take your chances, you deal with the consequences, I guess, but I wouldn't vilify the person for it necessarily. Where are we going with this? What does this have to do with anything that you've been talking about? What is your message?
What actually feels good?
Everybody's different, right? You don't find out what you like until you do stuff, but you're telling kids, teenage girls, whatever. I don't even know what age. She was talking about 13-year-olds in the movies or something. I don't even know who she's talking to. Who is this message for? God, I'm feeling kind of icky wherever this is going. I don't even know.
Is it the act itself or is it the after? When you're thinking about it, when you're feeling the full flush of his desire, could you imagine saying no to him?
Can you imagine having the full flush of your own gratification? Are women allowed to just feel that of themselves or not? Yeah, it might not be about the boy. You ever think about that? Have you ever met a dominating woman before? Maybe you haven't. Have you ever met a woman who is themselves the initiator, the one who pursues, that kind of woman? You don't think there are women out there that find gratification in the hunt and the capture and so on? These are human experiences. They are not gendered. And everybody does their own thing. What?
Have you ever? Would he treat you as nicely? If you did, what do you even want from him?
Maybe nothing. Maybe just sex. Have you ever just had a casual encounter with someone just because both of you wanted some release? For some people, that's enough. She is talking about something that happened to her or something that hasn't happened to her that she wish would. I don't know.
Could he ever really satisfy you or love you? Do you want things from him he could not give you?
What?
Like your own self-esteem?
No, you're right. He could not give you your own self-esteem. The operative word in self-esteem is self, and that really is something that maybe you need to focus on. Because it sure sounds like you are recovering or attempting to avoid putting all of your hopes, dreams, and desires in how other people think about you. Why don't you value yourself first? And not worry about what a boy may or may not provide you. Find a way to find your own emotional independence first. And then worry about having somebody else to prop you up elsewise. Maybe that's a healthy way to look at it.
Girls of color are paying for the sin of non-whiteness with their bodies. We can continue this sinning metaphor and...
Wait, sinning metaphor? You say sinning?
For the sin of non-whiteness.
Yes, sin. Okay, the sin of non-whiteness. Who is telling girls it is a sin to not be white? Where are the parents?
With their bodies. We can continue this sinning metaphor.
It's your metaphor. What do you mean we? It's your presentation.
And argue that sexual desirability is the heaven I have hopefully proved that girls are trained to want.
Sexual desirability is the heaven you hope to have proved that girls want. You haven't proven anything. Maybe your own... Okay. Calm down. I'm trying really hard here, guys. Okay. Your own neuroses, your own sense of self-consciousness, your own sense of self-esteem is not reflective of every girl who happens to passingly resemble you. Sister Scribe asks, "Is your show happening? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark." She's probably listening right now. Yes, Sister Scribe, indeed. My show is happening. Oh boy, it is happening. It's like the Mark Wahlberg of happening right now, because I think this insane force of nature may just end up making me die suddenly. Okay, we're almost done.
You know, in the Catholic Church, we believe that everybody goes to purgatory.
Oh, you're a Catholic! Wait. What does that tell me? I don't know, but Puritanism, controlling your sexual desires, criticizing images of sexualized... Okay, now I'm not a Catholic. I've never been a Catholic. Everything I know about Catholicism basically comes from The Exorcist, but maybe, just maybe, there's something going on under the surface here. And also perhaps in her own upbringing. I'm just saying.
You know, in the Catholic Church, we believe that everybody goes to purgatory, at least for a little bit, to burn off any sin and be pure enough to enter heaven. Didn't
one of the popes, disavow the existence of purgatory at one point in the relatively recent history of things? I seem to recall a speech from Christopher Hitchens several years ago where he talked about someone decided that purgatory didn't exist. Some pope or another. So is there still a purgatory officially in the Catholic Church? Maybe I misheard that.
My point this whole time is that we have an inability to hear young girls when they say, I want to go to heaven, and we hear them say, I want to burn.
What?
We have taught girls to want something we have placed behind the door of sexual availability, and we are not skeptical enough when they say they want the door itself. To any young girl listening to this, ask yourself, do you want heaven or do you want the fire?
What?
Could that growing, fumbling boy ever truly give you either?
What?
And could you accept it before you learned to give it to yourself? Thank you.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
Wow. Okay, now that I said earlier, you know, Mennonites, and I talked about Puritanism and everything else. I did not. That came out of left Seventh Heaven or something. What the? Okay, so this was a sermon. This was a poorly constructed moral sermon from the Catholic Church. Okay, yeah, no, I did not see that coming in any way, shape, or form. Wow. Okay. Well, last week it was a lot of expectation and nothing delivered. This week it was didn't know what to expect and thrown for an absolute loop. Okay, guys. Well, I hadn't anticipated being given a religious lecture tonight, but I guess that's what we got. Okay, let me update the card real quick. Okay, that's where we're at. I'll circle it again for a second WTF because that is the rule. Let me see if I can do that here without screwing it up completely. And not okay. Okay, I think that'll work. Okay, my artistic abilities haven't failed me completely. Okay, let's go over the bingo card one more time. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to them. I might get the ones that you're thinking of before you get there. Weightless example. The movies. I mean, that first one, the very first example, the bar chart with the 100 movies of girls in speaking roles. When the entire talk was about effectively sex and sexuality, girls in speaking roles. You're to be quiet and naked. Like, what? Okay. Anyway, so yeah, that's weightless example. Circling that one. Anecdote that probably never happened. Well, her only anecdotes really were those of Roxanne Gay, a second party to the whole thing, and it wasn't her own story. So and she never mentioned her own family or anything. I don't think we had any anecdotes of her own that I could assess. So I'm thinking I can do that one. Childhood to family anecdote. Again, nothing talked about her growing up or anything. Privilege. Did she say the word? Well, I mean, she did. There was the implication throughout the entire thing that boys apparently are immune from all of these things, right? All of these troubles, all of these questions, all of these worries, concerns, self-doubts, self-image issues, sexual hesitancy, all this stuff. Yeah, they have the privilege to avoid it. Sales pitch for product or service. Surprisingly not. I thought that she'd have a book or something. Oh, well, actually, you know what? Does the Catholic Church count? Does the Catholic Church count in this instance at the end there? Was that a sales pitch for the Catholic Church? I'm going to leave that up. Tell you what, I'm going to do a poll. I'm going to do a poll. All right. Did the end of the talk equal sales pitch for the church? I'm going to leave that up to you guys. And there you go. There's now going to be a poll that'll come up on the screen. If you think that's the case, go ahead. If you don't think so, click that too. All right. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. Yes, the unconscious bias that everybody has that women and girls are supposed to be XYZ, PDQ, etc. The stereotypes, they're supposed to be quiet and naked, and girls of color believe this, that, and the other, and yeah, circling that one. Free space, yep, we're going to circle that one because, well, I can. And since I have, Spaghetti-O.
I had a dog, and his name was...
What?
I had a dog, and his name was...
Bingo!
Of course!
Our second bingo, I got to update the card there, but there you go. There's our second bingo. Wage gap. She never talked money. She talked lines in films and things like that, but she never talked money. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. I didn't hear anything new. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Strangely enough, she never said either of the three that I recall. Now, if I missed that, let me know. Systemic, institutional. Well, society and the church and movies and etc., etc., etc. I think it's unavoidable.
Bingo.
What?
Of course!
Our third bingo. Oh my gosh. White supremacy. Though it was never said, the message was pretty clear that all girls of color and their sexual curiosities, desires, etc. are just fodder for white men, I guess. At least that's what she kept bringing up over and over again, especially the Roxanne Gay examples. And lastly, argumentative non sequitur. Honestly, the burning in hell, the fire, all that stuff at the end, basically all the Catholic Church stuff, like that was suddenly, first you're talking about the psychology and the self-image of girls, and at the end you cap it off with I don't even know what you call it, a spiritual argument, a soul-bound argument. I don't know what else to call it. Just absolute madness, really.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Okay, well, that's the card as I have it now. That's really filled up. I don't think we can hit a blackout, which would be amazing if we did, but I'm open to arguments. So if you have arguments for squares yet to be circled, let me know. Now, let me go to the poll real quick. And let's see, what does the poll say? So the question is, at the end of the talk, did the church mentioning equate to a sales pitch for the church? I've got a 59% yes and a 41% no. If you haven't voted in the poll, I'll give it another couple of minutes here, so I'll avoid that square for the time being. If you guys have arguments for any of the other squares, please put them in the chat now and be sure to tag me in your response so I can see it, and I'll scroll up and see if I've missed anything in the meantime. Let's see. Well, Bridget says this was a sales pitch for sex. She said she worked for Planned Parenthood, which means she'll get a kickback from the talk outreach program. Was it a sales pitch for sex? She seemed to be very anti-sex throughout the entire thing. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I don't know if that, I mean, the question's in the poll too, but yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Alexander Garver, is an argumentative non sequitur a Kathy Newman? May very well be. That's not a bad analogy. Let's see. Faithless, anti-male. It was decidedly anti-male. That is true. Smudge, the movie study was pretty much a non sequitur. Yeah, that too. I mean, there were a couple of things in here that, nothing really fit together. The beginning and the very end, reading off somebody else's story that had nothing to do with you and one person's experience and interpretation thereof becomes the all-encompassing. Okay, well, anyway. Let's see. Simic Magic, when she was talking about the church, it sounded more critical than sales pitch. Did it? She said that we in the Catholic Church. So do you think that she was being critical of the church's teachings? Because it sounded like she was relaying the church's teachings. I don't know. Think about that one for a second. Let's see. Dafuk Ashol. She read a story from a woman talking about her childhood. It could be considered anecdotal as it is still a reiterating of a childhood event. See, now, the thing I've always held on to is that it's got to be the speaker using something from their childhood or family to bolster their own presentation. Does it count if she's using someone else's childhood anecdote? I mean, I guess in the literal sense, it was a childhood anecdote. It just wasn't her. Yeah. Okay, you know what? Since the card does not say speaker's childhood or family anecdote, it is not a violation. So says me, the referee. And so I will update it there. Okay, decent argument. Decent. All right, so got that one there. All right, that's one more on the way. Let's see. Scribelight, rewind so we can hear it again. The Catholic Church, but you really want to hear that again? I'll have to switch it up here. All right. Well, tell you what. Let's get through finishing the card as much as we can, and then we'll decide if we need to listen to the thing again. Old grouchy gamer. Can we all agree that she will end up living with a dozen cats? I don't know. I mean, you know, as much as her argument, such as it was all over the place for me, I cannot help being the somewhat empathetic person that I am, even though I happen to be male. I can't help but think that this lady has some issues in her own life that she needs to come to terms with. That she has her own self-image issues, her own neuroses, paranoias about certain things. And, you know, everything being even, I really hope that whatever's bugging her, she finds a way to, you know, work out, that she has a happier life. Because it sounds like she's not having a very happy life. Let's see. Justice Jones, psychological manipulation, anti-sex results in more sex. Yeah, it could be one of those sort of like self-imposed reverse psychology things or something. I don't know. Blitz Zero, I think she needs some counseling. Again, we're only seeing a slice of this person's presentation of themselves, and it is a presentation, so who knows. Scribelight, the cost to women comparing to men in magazines. As far as what? I missed something now? I don't know. I need some context there, Spittle. Let's see. And Spittle, the part about the price to be in media could be considered wage gap. Oh no, that's. Okay, now that you say that. So women have a price to pay that men don't. Oh, a price to success that men don't have to. Is that it? Oh, okay. That's not a bad one. What do you guys think? Is that a good one? I'll take that on for a second. Let's see. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. I don't think there was anything there. So, okay. So the ones up for debate right now are wage gap and sales pitch for product or service. Poker Pierce, does wage gap have to be paper money? Can sexual experience be a currency? Well, the square just says wage gap, and I'm open to good argumentation. Good argumentation. Faithless says, good idea, but not the wage gap. Well, yeah, that's the other thing, too, is the wage gap itself as a phrase refers to payments differentials between demographics. Now, that she called it a price to pay, does that make it a price to pay? Does that make it currency, etc., just because she said so? Did she put up anything to reflect that in the course of her talk? I think that might be a bridge too far. Good argument. Nice try. I think that might be a bridge too far. Okay, so the last one for two more bingos is sales pitch for product or service. Okay, now since it is slightly contentious, I'm going to bring the video back up again. Hold on, I got to set it up again since I already closed that window, and we will listen to that bit one more time for our collective edification, and then we can decide whether or not it constitutes a sales pitch in the classical sense. Okay, I think it was within the last minute or so. Okay, so let me make sure I save my place here. I gotta live television, everybody. Live television. Okay, so put this there, and then jump to about a minute to the end.
When they say, I want to go to heaven, and we hear them say, I want to burn.
Okay, that was a little bit too late here. Let's back up a little bit.
Prove that girls are trained to want. You know, in the Catholic Church, we believe that everybody goes to purgatory, at least for a little bit, to burn off any sin and be pure enough to enter heaven. My point this whole time is that we have an inability to hear young girls when they say, I want to go to heaven, and we hear them say, I want to burn. We have taught girls to want something we have placed behind the door of sexual availability, and we are not skeptical enough when they say they want the door itself. To any young girl listening to this, ask yourself, do you want heaven or do you want the fire? And could that growing, fumbling boy ever truly give you either? And could you accept it before you learned to give it to yourself? Thank you.
Okay, and that applause, by the way, is totally canned. That was not live. That was a recording. Okay, so there's the entire Catholic Church spiel, as it were, for a second time, uninterrupted. So with that information, do you guys think that constitutes a sales pitch for product and or service? Let's see. Blitz Zero, I don't think it's an ad. Okay. Smudge, not a sales pitch for Catholicism, definitely word salad. Lexi Mads, that was word salad. Okay. Payar de Bayar, did she sound like she was reciting slam poetry the whole time with that background dramatic inflection? Yeah, she was definitely putting on the, dramatic points and emphasis on certain words and things. I don't mind that so much in someone giving a presentation. Let's see. Yeah, Roger Reynolds, feels like the religious spiritual talk was thrown at the last minute. It does feel a little bit awkward, doesn't it? I mean, I have to assume she planned to say something like that. And Lexi Mad says, sounds like an ad against Catholicism. Okay. So you guys felt it was more like critical, satirical in a way almost. Okay. Well, with that then, on that basis, I can't rightly circle that square. So I guess we'll just have to leave that there. And with that, I guess I'll call it. Let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 4 bingos. Not too shabby. Not too shabby overall. Let's see. Chicago Mike, sales pitch is to give second thoughts for having sex. Yeah, that's not a product or a service. Trying to persuade someone to your way of thinking doesn't necessarily mean a sales pitch for a product or service. Yeah. Faithless, more like a warning that sex will get them burned. Yeah, this is a very anti-sex presentation. Very much so. We got a double WTF, double WTF, and 4 bingos. That's pretty good, or pretty bad, depending on how you look at it. But with that, guys, I think I'm going to call it there. Definitely a surprising end to an otherwise confusing presentation, but I'll take that over the alternative of a boring end. But yeah, so now a couple of programming notes. First and foremost, the Sunday stream, which, as I mentioned in an earlier stream today, hopefully I'll use the correct opening video, unlike last week where I used the TED Excellence opening video because old habits die hard. The Sunday stream happens on Sunday, if you can believe it, at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, where I'll talk about a thing. Not sure yet, although I might have an idea. But then, here's the big thing, guys. Monday, August 1st, Monday, at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, a special edition of TED Excellence, because time zones and personal schedules are a thing, starring myself and in human form, and the two of us will be looking at a TEDx talk recommended to me by Tall Person that features a Young Turks reporter or correspondent or whatever you want to call him, talking to us about the economy. And since of all the people that I know on YouTube, in human form is one of the few people I know that know more about economies than I do, and he's also a commie. Well, I mean, he might not actually be a commie. I call him a commie just for fun's sake, he might be a commie. Anyway, he'll be joining me, and maybe, if I can remind him in time, and if he feels up to it, maybe as well, Ranting Monkey will join us. Can't promise that second one. It all depends on, circumstance and how Monkey's feeling. But Monday, at the regular TEDx time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, be here for a special TED Excellence. There will be a regular TED Excellence the coming Thursday next week as well, but special one on Monday. And with that, everybody, thank you for joining me for this puritanical journey of discovery, I guess. I hope you all enjoyed it. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or to those GoFundMes at the top of the chat box, thank you so much for your generosity. Really, really, really do appreciate it. With that, I hope you all have a good rest of your Thursday. I hope you all stay as cool as you can for those of you in the overheated parts of the world, because there are a lot of them right now. I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, everyone, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.